On Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, Ruby located the doors in question, as well as the mail, which had been placed on a different surface every day. Friday, her final day of house sitting, arrived, and Ruby once more stood at the door of the bungalow. Suddenly, as she opened the door, her husband, Alexander, with a giggly young woman in tow that could only be Susie, his new lover, was behind her, talking to her. "We have to talk," Ruby quickly explained. "No, stop, not here. I'm doing a job. Call me later. We'll decide on a time and place." Heedless of her words, they traipsed in behind her. To her horror, as she relayed the rules to them, Susie ran here and there and everywhere, touching, simply everything. What could Ruby do or say to make them leave? The thought crossed Ruby's mind that, though unseeing, they were themselves seen. Ruby's heart seemed to implode, sending reverberations from the top of her head to the tips of her toes. Suddenly, at the end of the hall, a luminous door appeared and opened to reveal an unusually long fire escape. Looking out the door, one could see and hear the agglomeration of people of all ages, all kinds, and sonorous wash of voices contradicting the euphoric atmosphere within the household. The people seemed to burble together like a confluence of waters, no longer streaming underground. Susie drifted towards the opening, akin to the moth rushing to the bright light, and ran down the fire escape, impervious to the pervasive pleas of Alexander and Ruby for her to stop. Alexander, oblivious to entering the unknown, ran down after her, reaching the bottom of the seemingly endless fire escape to hear and see Susie stop as her eyes were drawn upward to an unfamiliar sky consisting of colored flashes of borealis patterns rising and setting before her very eyes. Susie then felt as if her whole body was hemorrhaging with the fear. She felt her airspace was invaded. She could not breathe properly. Realizing that she was no longer in control of herself, Susie immediately tried to cry out over her shoulder to Alexander, "Okay, you win, I'm coming back." But it was not a clamorous voice that rendered the air, more of a hoarse whimper of fear. Suddenly, in the same breath, another door, also surrounded by a strange light, opened in front of her. Just as Alexander almost reached her, two simmering beings, a male and female species, with an aura emanating from their bodies, in slow motion gathered Susie up and disappeared into the vacuous space somewhere. Alexander decided to run after them through the door, which, unbeknownst to him, softly closed behind him and disappeared as if it had never been. There was no concern on Ruby's part. She felt as weightless as a bird with the aerial superiority when she witnessed the unnatural phenomenon below. She was free. Ruby, motionless at the top of the fire escape, then turned and winged her way back into the house. As the door behind her changed once more into an impenetrable wall, she retraced her steps, and being ever so diligent to the rules, she located the mail, then walked purposely, if not somewhat bewilderingly, to the front door. Stepping out of the house, then she used the fifth and final key, locking the door firmly behind her, as per her instructions. She placed the envelope of the keys in the mailbox, where she located her very handsome fee. As she walked home, it suddenly dawned on her that the house had not been situated on a hill to justify such a fireplace. In fact, she didn't ever recall seeing such a house on that familiar street. Turning slowly around, she noticed that the house was not gone, was now gone without a trace. The faces which Ruby had stared into, as well as what she witnessed, were forever to remain an enigma. With a renewed lift in her feet, remembering too fleetingly to specify, she walked on with breathless and unequivocal words. Just me. And thoughts of possibility, new and better life ahead of her, just done, perhaps. But by whom?